The setting impacts the story because Mina can't stop jumping between the real world and the webcomic world.
Welcome to the KidLit Deconstruction Zone podcast. In each episode, we'll mine children's books for tools to fill your author toolbox. Let's dig in.
Episode 3: Tools for Unforgettable Settings. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the KidLit Deconstruction Zone podcast. My name is Melissa Mwai, and I'm the author of several nonfiction books, including A Puerto Rican Childhood and I Can Make a Friend. And my good friends and co hosts call me Mel.
Hi, I'm Morgan Lau. I'm a visual storyteller. You can follow me at Green Girl Blue Planet on Instagram.
Hi, I'm Rona Sheridan. I'm a children's author and book coach. Find out how we can partner together on your writing journey by visiting my website. Today, on the KidLit Deconstruction Zone podcast, we'll be talking about how to make your story's setting stand out.
The tools.
All of us have read books where there is a memorable setting that sets the tone of the story. It can establish the time and place of the narrative. It can even shape the character's actions. This week, we'll explore setting and the tools used to set a mood, add interest, and impact your story. The first tool we're going to talk about in this episode is sets a mood. The setting of a story sets a mood by providing the physical backdrop from which the characters exist. It can be seen through the weather, time and history, season, and landscape, all of which establishes a unique atmosphere from which to create your narrative. The overall tone can establish emotions for your characters. A dark and stormy night evokes a different feeling from a bright sunny day on a farm. Settings can be symbolic, can heighten tension, and can affect pacing.
Here's your writing tip for sets a mood. Use weather, landscape, or time period details to enhance the setting. The next tool we're talking about is using setting to add interest. A book's setting, full of specific and sensory details, can anchor characters and add interest for the reader in the world of the story. These details also serve as a tangible way to transport young readers to a specific place and time. Whether the setting is real or fictional, a deeply imagined or well researched world can be truly immersive. Here's your writing tool for adds interest. Use research to fill out the setting details.
Our last tool is Impact Story. A setting that impacts the story can also serve as a character. You can play with placing your story in different environments, but it should still fulfill the reader's expectations or excite with the unexpected. Imagine a book about the first day of school jitters, but instead of daunting hallways and large grown-ups, it's now a candy store. All the joys at eye level with zero intimidation. A shift in setting may be intriguing, but it should still serve a purpose in the story. With a memorable setting, it uniquely offers varying circumstances that impacts the character's decision making.
Here's your last tip for impact story. Brainstorm how the setting affects the characters. The books.
Picture book selection for this episode is I Am the Storm by Jane Yolen and Heidi E.Y. Stemple. It's illustrated by Kristen and Kevin Howdeshell. It's a perfect book for discussing setting, so let's apply today's tools to this book. The mood set is one of fear and respect for the forces of nature, but also there's a mood of calm that comes from resilience. We see the dangerous and scary natural disasters that might normally cause panic, but the authors provide comfort and peace through the relationships shown in the families. Let me just read a bit of the text so you can see what I mean. When the ice and snow fell, sparkling like fairy dust on the windows, and all the lights went out, we made a fire and cooked hot dogs and marshmallows. See? The text lightens the mood. And when you look at the illustrations, you can see that the focus is on a relaxed family wearing hats, food, and smiles. Our second tool of adding interest is relatable because young readers may have faced anxiety from different weather events. Thunderstorms can be quite scary, but the setting in the story, although it creates visual and relatable tension, shows that you can also overcome those challenges with courage. The setting impacts the story by setting the tone of a challenge and advises the reader how to prepare for these events. Children learn from this, from the story itself, as well as the detailed back matter. This new insight will hopefully help them conquer their fears.
The chapter book pick for this episode is A Puerto Rican Childhood by me, Melissa Mwai. This nonfiction book blends real-world setting elements and fictional characters. It imagines a day in the life of an elementary-aged girl named Carmen, living in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The location sets the mood of modern-day life on the island by including sensory details and information that highlights Caribbean weather, flora, and fauna. Here's an example of auditory details to set the mood. A car zips by. Its radio plays quick salsa music. Salsa music, as well as other music sung in Spanish, is important to the country's cultural setting and sonic backdrop. Real-world locations add interest to the story. The phrase, hello iguanas, is surprising because that animal isn't usually highlighted in books about Puerto Rico. Currently, they're an invasive species, so even if people want to ignore them, they can't. So, if readers want to learn more, or if they actually visit the island with their families, it's a good start. The setting impacts the story because it drives the decisions where and how Carmen moves through her world. Different varieties of palm trees grow all over the island. Carmen interacts with the plants in her setting. And by having her imagine she's one of Puerto Rico's beloved green parrots, it not only informs the reader about the plants and animals, it feels like a real thing a kid would do to keep themselves busy on a walk to school.
Today's middle grade pick is Free Water by Amina Lukman Dawson. Many stories of antebellum slavery is told from an adult's perspective, but Free Water sets the mood by placing the fears of being in an unknown place with unsettling circumstances on the shoulders of children, Homer and his little sister Ada. The swamp is a scary place, but it's also their only hope to flee bondage. Quote, "But Homer, you can't swim," she said. Before I had a chance to think about that fact, I grabbed Ada's hand and ran toward the riverbank and jumped. End quote. As a reader and a parent, my stomach dropped. For the second tool, the setting in Free Water adds interest as Homer describes the flowing water, animal life, trees, and people that they encounter in the swamp to allow the reader to decide who the helpers are in the story. We also get an insight into the mindset of children navigating a strange terrain with this line from Homer's little sister Ada, describing the raging river. Quote, "It sounds like a hungry monster," end quote. For our last tool, Free Water's setting impacts the story because Homer tries to remember every twist and turn, but the environment challenges whether his hopes for reunification can become a reality. The reader roots for the children to survive with freedom, but the characters are tethered to their friends and family on the plantation, but most of all, their mother. In Homer's voice, quote, "Ain't no heading north in this here swamp. Besides, we can't go north without my ending hung in the air, mama." End quote.
The young adult book we're talking about today is The Colliding Worlds of Mina Lee by Ellen O. The story takes place in two primary settings: the Washington, D.C. metro area and inside a fictional school in a webcomic. These locations set very different moods. One is grounded in modern reality, mentioning locations a reader can find on a map, while the other immerses us in a supernatural school setting. In this scene, Mina is trying to fix what she thought was a glitch on her tablet during an electrical storm. But the language hints to the impending shift from the real world to the webcomic world. Quote, the screen was growing berserk and sending off flashes of light as if the tablet was self destructing from within. Combining the two worlds immediately adds interest, prompting the reader to want to learn more. This is especially exciting when the story flips our expectations on how the world is supposed to operate. Because at first, like the main character, Mina, the reader does not yet know they've been transported inside her webcomic. This adds interest by piquing the reader's curiosity. Quote, vibrant, exuberant color deluged her senses. Everything looked too bright, as if she'd come from a dark room into direct sunshine, like she was Dorothy entering Technicolor Oz. I really love that image because if readers have seen that movie, they can immediately have a visual on what that's like from going black and white to color. The setting impacts the story because Mina can't stop jumping between the real world and the webcomic world. At this point in her life, Mina created the webcomic to be in control and have more of a interesting life. Instead, she launches herself into a world where she no longer understands the rules. Quote, Mina could see a girl whose narrowed eyes and deathly scowl were aimed straight at her. More horrifying were the blue sparks that surrounded her hands. And it continues, quote, Sophia, the main character of Mina's webcomic, the hero of her story, was trying to kill her. She also finds out that her fictional world and her friends in that universe will disappear if she doesn't learn how to harness her powers as the webcomic's creator. The homework.
And now for the homework. Evaluate your story to see if the setting is memorable. If not, use today's tools to revise the setting for mood, interest, and impact. Whether you're writing a picture book, YA, or something in between, grab your writing tools and get to work. If you have any book suggestions for us to deconstruct in future episodes, please leave a comment below. Thank you for listening to the KDZ podcast, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe.